In a quiet village nestled between two mountains, lived an old man named Elias. He was known as the town's silent postman, a man who had delivered letters for over 40 years but rarely spoke a word. Elias had no family, no known friends, and no visitors. Every day, he followed the same routine: wake up at 6 a.m., collect the mail from the small town station, and walk door to door, delivering letters with an unreadable expression. One rainy afternoon, a boy named Jonah approached him. He was new to the village, just 12, curious and unafraid of silence. "Why don't you ever speak?" Jonah asked as Elias handed him a letter for his mother. Elias stared at him for a long moment. Then, in a hoarse voice, he replied, "Because words can destroy more than silence ever will." Jonah was stunned. It was the first time anyone had heard Elias speak in years. But he didn't press further. Instead, he made it his mission to befriend the old man. Over the months, Jonah would follow Elias on his rounds, asking questions, sometimes just walking beside him in silence. Slowly, Elias warmed up. He began to tell stories, small ones at first, then larger ones about the village's past, the people, and eventually his own. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountain, Elias sat Jonah down by the fire and said, "There's one letter I've never delivered. It's the reason I stopped talking." He reached into a dusty wooden box and pulled out a yellowed envelope with a broken seal. The name on it was Annabel. "She was the love of my life," Elias began. "We were supposed to get married, but I made a mistake. A terrible one. I left without a word to travel. And when I returned, she was gone. This letter was my apology, my heart. Everything I never said." "Why didn't you send it?" Jonah asked softly. "I was too late. She died the week before I returned. I kept the letter with me all these years, hoping that someday I could give it to someone who needed to understand the weight of words, spoken and unspoken." Jonah looked at the letter, then at Elias. "Can I read it?" he asked. Elias nodded. The letter was short, honest, painful. It spoke of regret, of love never forgotten, and of the deep scars left by silence. Years passed. Elias died in the winter of his 87th year. At his funeral, Jonah, now a young man, stood before the village and read the last letter. He had become a writer, inspired by a quiet postman and a story too heavy to stay hidden. The letter became a symbol of healing. It reminded everyone in the village to speak when it matters. To forgive and to never let silence bury love.